Okay, I think we are live now. Yes. Cool. Okay. Hey guys, this is your DM Alex coming to you live from Comic Emporium. Hold on, I've got to make sure that I'm actually on Insta this time because last time I was not, and that's a shame. And I don't want to do that again. So let's see, Comic Imp. I should have already had this set up, guys. Sorry, this is what happens when I'm left to my own devices. I'm trying to do everything. Usually, I have somebody here to help me out. So this time I'm by myself, and that's not a big deal. It just takes me a minute to get everything kind of going. Let's see. I should be streaming now on everything. Let's see. Um, yes, I believe so. Yeah. Okay. Well, even if I'm not, we're just gonna go with it. It's fine. So, this is your, there we go. This is your DM Alex coming to you live from Comic Emporium. And this is our April edition of the Game Mastering, how to Game Master, how to GM class. Uh, Tonight we're actually going to be talking about a couple of different things. So, first off, how did your last month go? Did you actually get a game in? Were you able to actually like sit down and play with some folks? Did any of the stuff that we talked about before actually come up and you get a chance to actually use it at all? Hopefully the answer to that is all yes, and hopefully you had a positive experience. Um, it's been a fun ride here doing all this stuff. I've had a lot of responses. People have come in and asked for more help, bring me their questions and things. I've actually got a guy now over in Germany who I am helping to GM. And Dot, this is for this is for you. This one's for you. So, last couple of months we've been talking about how to homebrew stuff and what to do to make homebrew happen a little easier, a little smoother, and more balanced and stuff. So, let me tell you about my most recent experience. A very good friend of mine, close to is like a little brother to me. He's a streamer. He's been doing this for a long time too. He was one of my first original players that I taught how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and he played a character named Gresh. Well, anyways, Gresh reached out to me about a week ago and said, "Hey, I've been running this game for a couple of years now. I've been talking you up to my players and stuff. It'd be really cool if you'd be interested in doing like a little one shot with them, just so they can like have that experience." And first off, flattered beyond belief. Like first, this is a really big thing because it's one thing to just sit up here and talk all day long and do my thing. It's another thing to have somebody ask me to do it. It was humbling and an honor. So of course I couldn't say no, and I told him, all right, yeah, let me think about it just a minute. Let me get an idea together of what I want to run. And so this was going to be a one shot. Now he has two groups that he runs, about 10 players each in, and I said, "There's no way I can get all 20 of your players. It's just not possible." So what I can do is I can do a one shot for 12 people. All right. If you've been watching the videos, if you've been following along in class and stuff, you know that like my ideal range is 4 to 5 players. I can do 6, but that's like pushing it. Any more than that, and really what ends up happening is not that it's so difficult, it's just that it slows the game down a great deal. So accommodating 12 players is a challenge for sure. So here's how I did it. First off, the one shot I did is a chase. This whole thing is going to be just a series of encounters where the party is being chased, which we'll get into the mechanics of that later for those of you who want to learn how to do that. Um, so I use my tools. I use my initiative tracker, went ahead and put in all the characters. I pre-genned all the characters, which was a big thing. If you're going to do a one shot, and this is going to be something like you're doing kind of a guest spot, go ahead and do the characters yourself. At least that way you know ahead of time what's coming into the adventure. Um, and that's not gonna like come as a surprise like halfway through and they're like, oh, by the way, I have a bead of force in my inventory. And you're like, well, there goes that encounter. No, go ahead and actually have the characters made, which that alone will take some time. It took me about 4 hours to balance out 12 level characters that were unique, but still provided a well balanced and rounded party. We went, so I did that and then used my initiative tracker from DM Tools, which I have linked several times in some previous videos. Uh, and I put in all the information there. So I already had their AC, I had their hit points. I knew what the character was because when I put in the name of the character, I also put like, rogue or, ranger or whatever. So that when I'm doing the initiative order, I know like who's going, what basically what their capabilities are going to be. Also, I kept all the character sheets on my side as well, so I was able to actually pull up the characters very, very quickly on a side computer as I was running this. The other thing I should say is I did not try to do this in person on like a map with minis and stuff like that. Not in a 4 hour period. It would be impossible to do it and be able to get through at least some story. I'm big on story. So this was a just a theater of the mind, sort of like in the way that Critical Role does theirs, and some of the other games out there, where a lot of this just takes place just through description. And with that, there's a challenge of you have to make this more than just about the mechanics. You have to bring in imagery. You have to use all five senses when you're describing what these players are seeing, because if you're not using physical terrain and a map and pictures and such, it's got to be something that they can easily imagine. So that was a challenge, but I like that kind of thing. So for me, it was fun. Still hard, still a challenge, but fun. Um, so here we are. I've got 12 players. I've got a chase scenario set up. I have my DM tools ready to go. Even still, the first encounter took about an hour and a half for 12 players, which is very, very good to get through. But it it's so, it's such a long time between each player's turns. It's very hard to keep everybody interested. Especially if they go first and now they have to wait for everybody else. But we manage it. The flow was good. We move on to our second encounter, and this one's going to be more of a skill check and role play encounter. Again, 12 players, that's hard because everybody needs time to play their part, to do what they're supposed to do, and to have, some conversation. Um, if I could go back and do it again, I probably wouldn't take all 12 players. I'd probably limit it so that we could have had more time. But at the same time, it was fun. And if you want to see what that looked like, it is on our YouTube channel. You just look up the special edition one shot with DM Alex. It's like a 4 hour long video because I recorded the whole thing. I didn't have OBS set up correctly, so I didn't actually record their side, and you don't get to see them and what they're doing. You can kind of hear it. It's a little hard to hear their responses and stuff, but it's there, and um, it was fun. It was really a lot of fun. Now, it was also difficult because of all that I've said before. I do not recommend, especially if you're brand new to this, do not just take on a 12-person party. Split it up, six people at max. But it was fun, and that was the kind of the main goal of this whole thing. It wasn't about showing off or anything like that. I just wanted to make sure these players had fun, and that is our number one goal as game masters, is to make sure everybody, including yourself, is having fun without murdering and all that kind of stuff that you hear a lot of DMs think is fun. It's not fun for me to kill players. I don't like doing it. I like the risk of it, and if that's what happens, it happens, but I'm not trying actively because it's no contest. I'm the DM. I can make whatever I want happen. So, that was fun. We had a good time. They've already asked me to do it again, and I can't. I just cannot do it again. It was fun, but it was a lot of work, and I was so drained afterwards because you have to be, I mean, very, very active as a GM in that kind of group. Uh, they were all awesome, and I really appreciate that chance. Now, let's get on to the actual chase mechanic and how that worked. For those of you who are wanting to do a a session where there is a chase, so what I do is I use what's called a gap mechanic, where there's a set of challenges. They can be skill challenges, they can be spells that can be used, they can be actions taken, where if they are successful, they will gain a gap between them and their pursuer. Um, so in this case, it was like if the party made a stealth check and it was DC like 20, then they put a gap between them and their pursuer as they hide. Athletics, acrobatics, if they did spells like invisibility, pass without trace, anything like that, haste, expeditious retreat, anything that gave them more movement would create a gap between them and their pursuers. Now, every failed check would reduce the gap. And so for the first encounter, the way we resolve it is by saying, after if you succeed by gaining 12 gaps without having more than four failures, then encounter's over, you pass, you've escaped for now. And then we move on into like the role play stuff that's going to happen. Some, you know, they can kind of recoup and set up for what's about to happen next. Now, every time that they failed on the, you know, if they failed four times, then there was a fight. That's when we go back to initiative rolls and we're talking, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Until I resolve one or two rounds of combat, depending on what they do. So if they want to fight it to the death, great. Let them fight it to the death. But if they want to escape, then they have to tell me, well, what are you doing during this combat to get yourself out of here? Fog cloud, do like a command and knock them unconscious or something. Even though it only lasts a few seconds, it's enough to break the encounter and allow the chase mechanic and the gap mechanic to resume. Um, that's how I do that. I break it up with combat and then role play challenges where the next thing that they did after they ran and escaped for a little while is they encounter a tavern. And in the tavern, there are partners of the individual who was hunting them, chasing them through this forest. And so here we come into a battle of wills where they are trying to either intimidate their way out or persuade their way out of this fight. And this party, well, like most parties, wanted to fight them. They were tired of the chase and they wanted, you know, the high noon standoff. And that's what they got. So they went up, they made their checks. They said, in role play, you know, why are you doing this? Let's just settle this. Let's just take each other outside and we'll fight it out. And whoever wins, wins. And that way we don't have to keep chasing and you don't have to keep chasing. So cool. I'm prepared for this as DM because I have all the stat sheets already set up. So I simply bring in all of the encounters all at once. Play a little, do a little hand wave. Okay, after a few, after an hour or two, you guys have time to rest. You get your short rest, you get some spells, you get some preparation done. Okay, now their whole party has shown up. Your whole party is already here. Let's go out and square up and we're going to have this fight now, and it becomes a massive melee. Now when you're talking about 12 players versus 12 npcs that are also the bad guys, uh, that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort because each character and each npc has a whole lot of things they can do, and that stuff takes time. And you still don't want it to be, in my opinion, I never want it to just be about rolling dice and quoting the mechanics of a spell. I always describe the spells without naming them, but their effects are still the same. When we do, dice rolls and everything, I don't like to just show off like, oh yeah, that's going to be a 20, 3 to hit. I've got their ACs. I know what their AC is. Even if they add mage armor, shield, or whatever, I know what it is. It's right here on the second computer, so I can just describe what's happening. I can just say, yeah, they slip through your defenses and, you get gashed or whatever. That's how we finished it up. And yeah, after 4 hours, I was excited. I was exhausted. They were all having fun, big smiles, which is all what we always want to see. And it was a good time. Will I do it again? Like I said, probably not. I just don't have the energy to continue to do those. They are very taxing. Would I do a smaller, like four-person one shot? Sure, of course. That's what I prefer to do anyway. So that was fun. How can that help you guys? How can everything that I just tell you? Well, just straight up take it from me. Like just borrow everything that I just said. Use the chase mechanic, use the gap mechanic. Uh, I've given you all the tools. I've told you how best would be to like actually handle this kind of stuff. You know, as far as like, you know, what do you do when you know they want to cast fireball and there's not a map? You know, just play it out. Um, so yeah, that's where description comes into play. Make sure you're saying like, you know, okay, these people are like right next to each other, and these people are off to the side. Uh, and so when you cast your fireball, you're going to be able to get, you know, either these three people or these two people over here. You can't get them all. Cool. That would be what it would be like if it was all on a map and everything. Which brings me to another point. Running stuff online. There are lots and lots of tools out there. I've told you many times. I'm not endorsing anything in particular, but there are lots of free tools out there for you to use to run online sessions. We did our whole thing over Discord. Discord was free for us, unless you're a Nitro user. Uh, but it was fun. It was enjoyable. Okay, on to other topics. So we've got our Learn to Play coming up on, I believe it is let's see if I believe it's the 13th. Will be our Learn to Play event here at the store. So this is again going to be split up into two sessions. We do in all ages, which is more meant for like under 18 or parents and kids learning to play together. And that starts at noon here at the store and then goes until about 4:30. And then from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. on the 13th will be our 18 plus group, which is just going to be for adults learning to play. And yeah, it's a, if you are wanting, if you're local and you're watching this and you're saying, I really want to come to that, first off, remember all of our events are free. Secondly, if you are wanting some practice DMing, like if you just want like that safety net, want to remind you, you can always come on a learn to play day and you can sit with us and we'll basically hand you all the stuff and just have you kind of read through it beforehand and then walk you through and just kind of be there with you as you run the adventure for one of these learn to play events. That way, you're learning to GM with a group of people who are very forgiving because they don't know. So it's a good experience, and you have the security of having your DMs right here next to you. Okay, what else have I got for you this week or this month? Um, there's a lot of tools out there that you can use for in-person games. Like I've talked about this before. There's some new stuff coming out. There is these like encounter in a boxes. I believe Wizards of the Coast is making them, where like they include all the terrain and the minis and all the stats and everything, so you can set up like a were rat den or a sewer ambush kind of thing. They're out there. They're really cool. They're actually not that expensive either, and they come pre-painted, which is always good. There is some couple of different things like epic encounters and terrain crate, where everything you need for an encounter is already included in the box. These are really good things, like tools that you can have on hand to help out with that kind of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, well, without my partner here, I've kind of run out of things to go over with you guys. So, anybody who's currently watching, if you've got any questions for me, any comments, feel free at this point to let me know so I can help you out. Like, if there's something you know, if you've got questions about how to run something or balancing something or what my thoughts are on something, let me know. Uh, I'm here to help at this point. I know one of the questions that came up, actually, this would have been 2 days ago now, was high variance dice and my thoughts on them as a DM. What are high variance dice? Let me explain that first. High variance dice. like if you're using a high variance D4, it only has ones and fours on it. There are no twos and threes. It basically eliminates the middle ground there. And what that means is you either whiff it or you max it out, one way or the other. For D20s and stuff, you've got more ones and more 20s on the die, and less of the like twos and threes and 19s or and like 13s, 14s. It's a more dynamic roll. Uh, my thoughts on this is that I can see from a mechanical point of view, like the crits and the fumbles are exciting when they happen. So very cool stuff. But the problem is, when you're getting ones and twenties more often, or when you're maxing out damage dice or minimizing damage dice more often, for me at least, it feels like it's kind of it loses its excitement because it's the excitement comes from the rarity of it for me. You know, rolling a 20 is awesome. But if there are three 20s on the dice, it doesn't feel as awesome. It's like, well, I mean, it's going to happen more often. Um, I don't know. I think high variance dice they have their uses, and there's no wrong way to play the game. So if you want to play with them and your DM is okay with it, or if you're the DM and your players are okay with you using high variance dice, go for it. Have fun. It doesn't really matter as long as everybody's having fun. Uh, I'm playing in a new game, Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, where it's a D10 system. So the only thing you use are D10s, and it's based on a success failure. Six or higher on a D10 is considered a success, and anything else is a failure. Ones are traditionally not really counted as like a critical failure. Same thing like with tens. Tens aren't considered a critical success unless you get two of them in a check. Um, that's the only time it's considered like that's a like a critical success or a messy success as they're called too. Uh, if you haven't tried anything other than D&D, there's some good game systems out there. I talk about Blades in the Dark a lot, but there's also things like um, Vampire the Masquerade, Shadowrun, which is run on a D6 system. All the dice you use are D6s. There's a couple of other things out there as well. Like there's some new stuff like Alien and Avatar. Um, there's like the Power Rangers game is really good. It's all basically the same sort of system where you're playing a character, you're playing through a storyline, and you have powers and abilities that match the theme of whatever game system you're in. There's a new game system that just launched last week called Everyday Heroes, which is taking cinematic adventures like Escape from New York or The Crow, and they've turned them into modules, and then they have rules on how to create characters to play within those modules. So play within the world, the cinematic world of The Crow or the cinematic world of Escape from New York. Um, that's something that you could also check into that would be pretty interesting. Um, eh, like I said, I tell everybody all the time, just get out there and try the new stuff. Don't just stick with one game because it's only going to enrich your life. It's not going to take away from your love of D&D or Pathfinder or whatever game you're playing. If anything, it probably inspire you to add some of the stuff you find in other game systems to what you're currently playing in. Okay, looks like I don't have any questions this time. So if you do have any questions, you can always hit me up at the store. You can hit me up on Insta. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can always reach out to me on Discord as well if you're in our Discord channel. Be glad to help you out. Making more DMs is good for the game because it ends up making more players happy. All right. So, with that, I'm going to be your DM Alex coming to you live from Comic Emporium, right here in the heart of Panama City. This was your April game mastering help, and yeah, check out check out the one shot I did on YouTube. You can look it up by going and looking up the special edition one shot with DM Alex. And I will see all of you here on hopefully in the next couple of days, or of course on the various social medias that I'm currently streaming to. All right, thanks. We'll see you soon.